Blind dates. I'm sure many of you have talked about it, some of you have thought about it, and some of you have perhaps been on one. But I have three questions for you. Would you be satisfied or would you be comfortable going out on a date with a blind person? Would you be confident of having a secretary who is blind? Would you be happy going on an expedition to Mount Everest with a mountaineer who is blind? Well, over the next few minutes, let's explore ideas and possibilities. I began my work with the blind in 1990. The first project I did was the promotion of cricket for the blind. And cricket took me across this wonderful country and gave me the opportunity to engage very closely with blind people, their families, with teachers, educationists, media professionals, with medical professionals, with people from the bureaucracy, and even politicians. I also had the opportunity of hearing different voices from different parts of India, from different people. A blind professor once told me that a railway ticket examiner refused to believe that he was blind. Yes, refused to believe that he was blind, simply because he spoke English. Well, blind people don't speak English, I guess. A young lady once called me up from Ludhiana. She was a lady ophthalmologist, an eye doctor, and she wanted advice on how to bring up her blind son. I thought doctors knew everything. Once I was on a meeting with a bureaucrat, and somewhere suddenly the bureaucrat stops and said, "Mr. Abraham, I thought you were blind." I said, "Yes." He said, "How come you're working on a computer?" And I just thought to myself, bureaucrats who design policies, programs for India, do not seem to be aware of what is possible and what's available. A friend of mine, a blind lady, once told me something very, very stunning. She said, when I was 2, some people in the community suggested that my parents should get rid of me. Would you call it sensitive or would you call it insensitive? There's a friend of mine from Meerut in Uttar Pradesh. He said when he had finished class 12, he told his father that he wanted to pursue higher education. And his father says, "Why would you want to study? You have food, you have clothing, you have shelter. What else do you want?" And then he asked his father, "Why do other people study?" And he was told that they need to become chartered accountants, they need to become advertising professionals, they need to become bureaucrats, and so on and so forth. So this guy said, well, then let me devise my own way forward. So the point here is that there is very, very low expectations from people who are blind. There is very little in terms of understanding what is possible. The awareness levels are low. The ignorance is widespread. And then there is a question mark on attitude. And this pushes the blind people into the fringes of our community. 20% of the world's blind population live in India. The World Health Organization says the numbers are 62 million. The activists say the numbers are 42 million, while the 2011 census say the numbers are somewhere around 5.4 million. Whatever be the correct figure, the numbers are huge. And the majority of these blind people are pushed and they live in the margins of our society. Well, my forays into the life with blindness is not all about gloom and doom. Eric Wainmeyer at 5 became blind. At 13, he went for a rock climbing camp. And then he comes and tells his parents, "My dream is to become a professional mountaineer." The parents said, "Oh no." But then he was firm and the parents had to give in. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, Eric Wainmeyer is one of 100-odd people in this world who can proudly claim, "I have climbed the tallest mountain peak in every continent, including Mount Everest on the 26th of May, 2001. David Blunkett went blind when he was 6. He developed a very close interest in politics, finished his education, went on to do political science, joined the Labour Party, won elections, and finally became the Home Secretary in Tony Blair's cabinet. Passion, ambition drove him to the top of the political ladder. Coming to India, Pankaj Sinha was a young lawyer, a law graduate. He was looking for a job. To begin with, every door that he turned to seemed to be closing on him. So he decided to visit the police station just close to his house. He offered to write bail applications for the prisoners who were coming there. He would write 3 and 4 bail applications every day, charge them $300 or $400, made enough money. 6 months down the line, one of the prisoners said, "Sir, would you like to represent me in court?" Thus began Pankaj Sinha's journey in the court. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Mr. Pankaj Sinha has a chamber in the Delhi High Court. Sanjay Dang, a passionate lover of travel, he set up a travel company. Siddharth Sharma, again blind because of an accident, a PR professional. There are people like Madhubala Sharma who are corporate trainers. Preeti Monga is an HR professional and an aerobic instructor. So when you look at these examples, the questions that come to mind is the problem really with the blindness, or is it with our thinking? Is the problem really with our blindness, or is it with the thinking? If you look at these lives, what drove them forward was not their blindness. What defined their lives was not their blindness. It was passion. It was ambition. It was a positive attitude. And it was also that very, very magical word, innovation. People innovated. And they achieved. They went forward. You know, a few years ago, I was at the cricket match for the blind in Ahmedabad. And it was the finals of the national tournament. And there was a group of people who came in to watch, spectators. They had all come there with curiosity as to how blind people would play cricket. But once the match began, the curiosity was transformed into cricket. People wanted to know what the score was. People wanted to know how much a particular batsman had scored. He wanted to know what the run rate was, and so on and so forth. Cricket took over. Ability took over. Performance took over. There was a shift from the disability, blindness, to the ability. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time we stopped being obsessed with the blindness. The problem most of us face, our parents, our teachers, our politicians, our bureaucrats, all of us face, is our obsession when we meet a blind man, is the obsession with the blindness to the extent that we become blind to the person. We don't just recognize the person who has various attributes which can be useful to the community. An often used word these days is inclusion. We talk about inclusive India, we talk about inclusive development, we talk about inclusive education, inclusive programming, inclusive design, so on and so forth. I believe inclusion cannot be enforced by legislation. Inclusion cannot be brought about by enforcement directorates. Inclusion happens organically. Inclusion is about empowerment. Inclusion is about contribution. Sachin Tendulkar was one of India's top cricketers. All of us have toasted him for years. But the day he stopped performing, the day when his contributions to the Indian team's cause started dropping, there were murmurs around the country. Why is this man playing? The greatest of people who have performed at the highest level, when they stop contributing, they are out of the team. When you start contributing, you become part of the team. So the mantra to inclusion is about empowerment and contribution. And maybe a third factor would be relevance. Gundappa Vishwanath and Sunil Gavaskar were great cricketers in the 1970s. We hear of Sunil Gavaskar even today. He was a cricketer, scored 34 odd centuries. He moved into becoming a commentator, a writer, a television professional. We still know of Sunil Gavaskar. We do follow him. We do admire him. There are many fans for Sunil Gavaskar. But I'm sure the present generation might not even know who Gundappa Vishwanath was. So it is about relevance, constantly reinventing ourselves. And I believe there is room, if we shift from blindness to abilities and talent and the person of the blind person, you would suddenly find that blind people actually start becoming relevant to our community, to our families. Finally, I would like to say, looking at the various professionals that we talked about over the years, in the previous sections, we talked about the mountaineer, the lawyers, and so on. They are definitely part of the human resource of India. If they could be part of the human resource of India, why not the others? We need to invest in them. We need to invest in quality education. You know, when Narendra Modi Sahab had declared Skill India in 2014, I was excited, and I decided to start a skilling program. And we interviewed close to 400 visually impaired people from the north, universities in the north. And what we discovered was 80% of them were not employable, neither were they trainable. A big question mark on the quality of education. We need to seriously look at the quality of education that blind young people receive in this country. So invest, because they are human resource. It's not about charity. They're part of the human resource. We need to stop looking at providing for them. Instead, invest in them. So parents, teachers, and countrymen, lend me your ears. Blindness. I'm not done. I'll have to repeat now. Parents, teachers, and countrymen, lend me your ears. Every blind person in India is part of the human resource of the country. Invest in them. Yes, invest in them. Don't just provide for them. Thank you.